Hey all, 118 Set Shadow here. It's that time again as we have a new set of Shadowverse Evolved. This time it's set 4, Cosmic Mythos. So today we're going to be going over new deck builds from using new cards from the set and seeing what the overall cost of the decks would be. So far I have done this for Rage of Bahamut as well as Flame of Levitine. I was not able to do it for when Umamusume came out yet, but we are moving into Cosmic Mythos at this point, so we'll be covering every craft including Umamusume, and in addition, as a bonus, this time around I'll be talking about multiple decks for some particular crafts, which we will get to see here as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Just to discuss what is going to be talked over, we'll be talking about individual decks for the crafts. I'll be talking about prices overall for the deck and individually for cards. I also classify cards by color code, whether I think they're too high for their price in red or if their price is okay in green. With that all said, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, one more thing I should mention is that the overall cost of the deck only includes whatever is shown with a price. So leader cards, tokens, anything else that you need to pick up is not included in the cost. This is just for the deck itself, both the Evo and the main deck. So let's go ahead and get started with Forestcraft. A new deck build that has come out of this one, which is likely to be the most popular going into set 4, is the Elephant Combo build. This build focuses around a lot of new 1-cost cards between amulets and followers, as well as the new 6-cost King Elephant. The way of this deck is to play a lot of combo-based skills in order to gain advantage over your opponent. You have various options of damage pings, storms, and then King Elephant himself has storm and gains power based off the number of cards in your hand. The general idea of this deck is get the King Elephant out with a decent sized hand, swing into face because it has storm, and on the next turn hit them with Silver Bolt to finish them off. If King Elephant was strong enough, then you could potentially 2-hit KO your opponent over the course of 2 turns. As for the deck itself, when it comes to prices, let's have a look. Of all the cards that we have here, there's only one listed in red, which is Bellringer Angel. And from all my analyses in the past, Bellringer Angel has always been in red, as it's a gold, but it's always been over $15, way higher than I would expect for a typical gold card. $17.26, that's the current price, and these prices are all based off of TCG player market prices at the time of recording. So Bellringer is $17.26 right now, while its Evo is also played in here, but is only $3.50. Some new cards that have been added to the deck besides the King Elephant himself. King Elephant is not too expensive either. While the Evo is almost $2, the base form is currently 95 cents, although you'll want to play 3 copies of it. Then when it comes to other new cards, there's also Sukuna, who the premium versions of these cards have been pretty expensive, but when it comes to the regular silvers, the Evo is currently $1.14 and the base form is 56 cents. Then we've also got the rise in price of Ancient Elf coming from set 1. This card has been constantly played in Forestcraft and will continue to see play as we go forward. It's effectively become a staple in all Forestcraft based builds. You've also got Crystalia Tia in here, which originally came from set 2. It's $8.46 right now. And then we've also got some other new cards, such as Cassiopeia, which is a new legendary added to the deck at $4.93 right now. It also has a Code Geass collab version, C2, if you want to try that one. That one is a little bit more expensive, though. You've also got Nelsha, which is a new gold at 47 cents. Silverbolt itself is only 18 cents, so that's still a very easy pickup and comes out of set 1 too. With all things considered, The final cost of this deck is $122.41, which, compared to the past, it's a little more expensive, but compared to set 3, it's way cheaper than Beauty and the Beast is. Because Beauty and the Beast played the Alice package. That Alice package alone already costs about $120 on its own plus. So Beauty and the Beast is more expensive to play than this deck, although this deck is the more popular one for set 4. The next deck to go over is going to be Abysscraft, and we're going to talk about the Necrocharge build. This build has new support for building up your drop zone a lot faster, or the cemetery, with cards like Grave Desecration, and then you're enabled to use cards like Marazensky, as well as the new Demon Lord Ector, a whole lot faster than you could back with set 3. Many other new cards have been added in here, such as Demonic Drummer, which is a ward and a 1 cost, also grants you life. And then there's also Mischievous Zombie, which comes from set 3, but with the advent of additional Departed cards getting added into this deck, it's become a lot more consistent to play. The only red in here is Bellringer, which we've already discussed, but I will note that there are a lot of legendaries in this deck. You have Marazensky, you have Cerberus, and you also have Soul Dealer in here. And on top of that, you have all of their Evos in the Evo deck. Marazensky is 1036, and I will note that market price is for the Super Legendary. The Legendary is actually more expensive on its market price right now. The Cerberus market price is 1062, while Soul Dealer is 785, and the Evos are all under $2 market price at this point. So while they don't contribute that much, they are a contributing factor to the overall final price of $134.88. The deck itself is expensive to play, but in some sense it's not heavily expensive in comparison to some of the others that we're going to see soon. Before we get into that though, let's cover a more budget Abysscraft build that you could play that also has a lot of potential for the meta. This is a new variant of Aggro Abysscraft, where Aggro Abyss was one of the more popular Abyss variants from set 1, but we got a few new cards that breathe more life into the deck, including the new legendary Howling Demon. Howling Demon is currently 676 and has a few interesting skills where it deals damage to an enemy follower, and its Evo form at 290 has Storm and can heal you if Sanguine is active for you. For those of you who are not aware, Sanguine is a skill that is active whenever you take damage during your turn. I guess it's not a skill, but rather a state. It's a state that will be active under those conditions. Another new card that came from set 4 added in here is Goblin Princess. The original aggro build played goblins, and Goblin Princess has the ability to call goblins out of your deck on play, so it enables you to flood the board pretty early as a 3 cost. You already have all your returns like Aimling Wraith and Skeleton Fighter, which are still really cheap to pick up. Soul Conversion is in here too at $1.19, and then you've also got the Bat Vampire package with Vanilla and Vate. You've also got Alucard in here, which comes out of the starter deck. Cerberus is in here as well. Overall, this deck is significantly cheaper than Necrocharge is, with a final cost of $75.51. Then the next deck we're going to go over is the Daiwa Scarlet Umamusume Pure build, which there is really no significant change to this deck. Outside of potential techs you might play, the strategy is the same and still uses the basic core engine of Daiwa Scarlet. You're still going to play Agnes Tachyon in here, which has seen a massive spike in value, and it's been red since the start, but it is going to remain red at $41.58 right now. Ogre Cap is also in red at $17.67, while some other cards like Daiwa herself, who is the boss of the whole deck, has dropped in price since we last talked about it to $9. And then Narita Brian is in here as a tech option at $7.99. And when you take a look at the Evo deck, it's mostly just carrots, which are up compared to when we covered this in set 3. But then you've also got Agnes Tachyon's Evo, which has gone up in value. However, it's still in the green as it is a legendary. 1201 to pick that up. Most of the other cards available between Flowers for You, Vodka, Fine Motion are all underneath 50 cents. And then Special Week is still in here at 73 cents, making this deck overall $237.77 for a final cost, which is overall more expensive than what it used to be in set 3. However, this deck is not getting any new support in the future, and progressively it's very likely to just fade out. Then we're bringing back Haven Eggburn from set 3, which runs the whole Fable package with Alice, Humpty Dumpty, as well as Haven exclusives. The main thing that allows this deck to really continue to see play in this format is the addition of Andromeda from set 4. This is really the only card that gets added to this deck, where Andromeda's special ability is on play for the remainder of the turn, you and your followers don't take any effect damage, which is critical when dealing with Humpty Dumpty. And when I say dealing with it, I mean you dealing with it. For those of you who don't know, the effect of Humpty Dumpty is that when it evolves, it basically blows up the whole board, dealing 5 damage to everything, and then it deals 3 damage to your opponent's leader. To your opponent. But the thing is, Humpty Dumpty will also destroy your followers. Andromeda saves all your followers from Humpty Dumpty's destructive effect, allowing you to maintain a board while destroying your opponents. Humpty Dumpty himself would get destroyed under these circumstances, so Andromeda protects that too. In terms of pricing here, Andromeda's 92 cents, so that's not a big addition to the deck at all. But when you take a look at some of these other prices, the Alice package is still expensive. Combine the base form and the Evo, and you've already got over $51 for a pair. So that already runs you $153 just for that package alone. Then it doesn't help that Snow White is starting to go up in value too. Where this card used to be $2 to $3, it's now $6.16 and is continuing to rise in value. Eggburn Haven is likely to continue to see play even beyond set 4 for some time, and the final cost of the deck is currently $222.59. I still have to wonder if Alice will drop off at some point, given that of the builds that are moving on from set 3, Haven is the only one which continues to use the Alice package, which could lead to a lot more quantities on the market, unless a lot of players just continue to pick this deck up over others. The next deck we're going to cover is a new variant of Dragoncraft. This is PDK Discard Hybrid. And when I say PDK, that's short for Prime Dragon Keeper, which is a new mini-boss that exists in this deck. It's a 3-cost card that allows you to burn your opponent for damage, as well as burn your opponent's board for damage, as long as you play cards that are 3-cost or less followers. So, the idea is that Prime Dragon Keeper is an alternate burn engine to the Dragon Song Flute Dracomancer Rites package, allowing you for double duty burn to your opponent, and then you eventually move your way into a big hitter like Dark Dragoon or Genesis Dragon. That's been the typical strategy of Discard Dragon as a whole, but Prime Dragon Keeper is a new toy to play with to try it out. Cost-wise, Prime Dragon Keeper is a gold, so it's 91 cents right now, which is not bad at all. And then a new card in here is also Sybil, which is a legendary at 343, and this card also has a collaboration with Colin Kozuki, so you can find a legendary with that alternate art as well. Currently, 343 is the market price of this, and then in terms of cost of a lot of these other cards, not much to it. Dragon Song Flute has been dropping in value, now it's $7.54 market price, And then Dark Dragoon Forte is $12.51, which has been a significant drop off since we first covered it. But one thing to be warned about is the cost of Dragon Oracle, which is exclusively from the starter deck for Dragon. The thing is, remember that the MSRP of the starter decks is around $20, but the market price of Dragon Oracle is $7.39, which means you're paying more just to pick these three up as singles than you would be just picking up the starter deck. If the starter decks run out, then that's going to be a problem. But as long as they're still on the market for $20 or less, it's still better to pick that up than to have to buy into the Oracle separately. The deck overall is not too expensive, which is a very rare thing to say for dragons, and I'd say that's also because Bellringer is not in this build, but the final cost of this deck is $99.95. And then we're going into another Havencraft build that got enabled with this new set, which is Amulet Control. So, the deck does not utilize Prism Priestess anymore, as Globe of the Stairway is an amulet form of Prism Priestess, allowing you to search your deck for any amulet that you want without having to perform an Evo, opening up the Evo deck to additional options. Cost-wise, this deck has a lot of cheap things that you can put into it. We also have the new Ether that got added to the deck, which is currently $5.08. This card enables you to pull out followers from your deck as long as you have enough play points to play them originally. So the general idea is that you can play this on turn 8 and summon Aegis immediately, and then if you happen to have Guardian Sun, you can give Aegis Ward right off the bat and Evo it right there so that it can't take any damage, protecting you almost indefinitely for one turn. But the deck itself, yeah, this is a more time-consuming deck, as Aegis is more of a control-based deck that goes for late game, which makes it a hard candidate to play for something like the BSF tournaments that are going on right now. But the deck itself is still pretty cool. Based off of cards like Candelaria of Prayers, combined with your amulets as well as some other cards that are available, the deck does a lot of healing on top of that to keep yourself afloat. The red cards here are not expensive ones, but they are worth noting. Acolyte's Light comes out of the starter deck alone, but it's $2.30 right now, while Execution is in here too at $3.79. But most of the deck is not too expensive for what it is, and the overall final cost is one of the cheapest for this format, which is $64.41. And now for what has been the cheapest craft of the game so far, and it still continues to be, it's Swordcraft. This deck is the Arthur deck, which brings in the Arthurian package from set 4, cards like Round Table, as well as Gwaine and Tristan, which are all Arthur-based cards that work off commanders for just overall board presence and pressure. The deck only has one real red to discuss though, which is the silver card from set 1, Swordsman. This card has been going up in value over time with the use in almost every variant of Swordcraft right now. And it used to be incredibly cheap, under $1, under 50 cents, and now it's $2.05 market price, so just a call out there, as over $2 for a silver is starting to push it. Gwaine himself, which is a new card and legendary, is $1.59 to pick up, but the most expensive card in this deck right now is also a new card from set 4, which is Mars. Mars is currently $9.09, has the ability to call officers out of your deck when you Evo, and then the Evo form is $6.42, which is also a pretty decent price for how it is right now. And compared to how we discussed Heroic in set 3, when that deck was under $50, Valiant Fencer at the time was under $10, and then eventually shot up to be almost $30. So Sword was the least expensive in set 3 until that happened. So I would still pay attention to Mars, as it has a lot of upside going. You have a lot of your cards that come back from old sets as well, like Maid Leader at 73 cents, Floral Fencer at 26. Gemstaff Commander's also in here at $1.78. Ultimately, the price is $56.41, and among all the legendaries, only Mars is the expensive one, where even then, nothing in this deck is over $10 yet. And then we find our last card or deck is Runecraft, Giant Chimera build. So this deck's whole premise is just get as many spells into your deck as possible, as well as followers, then get Daria onto the board, pull out the Giant Chimera with Daria's skill, and because you would be able to count followers in your drop amongst your spell chain, you can OTK your opponent for 30 damage with the Giant Chimera. That is the general strategy of the deck, but it has flexibility to try alternate routes of winning as well. Cost-wise, when we take a look at this deck, there are 3 reds of note. Agnes Tachyon is in here too. Despite being an Umamusume card, it is very good to play in Rune in general. And we've discussed that price there. Execution, we've also discussed before. The only other one to talk about, which is exclusive to Rune, is Merlin, which has been rising back up in price recently and has crossed $15 to $15.85, which is now borderline red there. Ultimately, this deck also increased the price of Daria from set 2 at, it's now $8.46 for the base form and $6.11 for the Evo. But the rest of the deck is not too bad. Some new cards include Star Reader Stella, which is 92 cents and a gold. A good card to add to the deck for general purposes. And then, of course, Giant Chimera itself is a new legendary added to the deck at $7.15 and is the win condition of the deck. Overall, this deck is also pretty expensive to play at $197.98. So to recap what we covered, in terms of overall cost, when we look at it from a broader perspective, the way we can see it is that we do have cheaper options for Swordcraft, Abysscraft, and Havencraft, and the most expensive builds to play right now would be amongst Haven, Umamusume, and Runecraft. Then you can look at Forest Dragon and Abyss as pretty similar in price, with Abyss having the most expensive there with the Necrocharge based build. But those are your mid-tier in terms of being able to build the deck based off of cost. So if you're looking to go on a budget that may still be out of reach, Haven and Rune will definitely be out of reach unless you're going for the Amulet build. And then Umamusume, given that it will slowly fade out, the main thing that keeps on driving it is Agnes Tachyon. So as long as you continue to play Agnes Tachyon, the deck's price is still going to be very, very high. In any case, you still have a good set of options for playing budget, although the lowest budget you go is still going to be over $50, so just keep that in mind as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this was helpful. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys later.